James Robinson, Justin Jefferson, and TJ Hawkinson. Just a few names of offensive players that turned a lot of heads in 2020. Whether you saw it coming or not, it's fun to see a player exceed expectations. It happens every single year, and it's going to be no different in 2021 with some new names coming out. So let's do that right here, right now, with my predictions of players you should look out for in 2021. Let's start it off with the 6th all-time rusher in college football history. The only player in college football history to rush for over 6,000 yards in a 3-year span. I'm talking about the 2nd round draft pick in 2020 for the Indianapolis Colts, the former Wisconsin Badger, Jonathan Taylor. Not only did he turn heads in college football, he dominated the sport at his position. And going into that 2020 NFL draft, stud running backs were not hard to come by early on in this draft, and Taylor was one of them. Despite having the best stats out of the bunch, Taylor was far from being the first back taken, with a concern of mileage, and rightfully so. 926 rushing attempts in 3 years at Wisconsin, where Taylor was responsible for 55 touchdowns as a Badger. Even though he opted out of the 2020 season, NFL teams were concerned that Taylor has played his best football already. But Taylor ran that argument out of Lucas Oil Stadium, with a promising rookie year with the Colts and quietly being the 3rd best rusher in the NFL. 1,169 rushing yards, with 11 touchdowns and over 5 yards per rushing attempt. And Taylor found his stride in the final month of the season with 7 touchdowns in his final 5 games, including a 253-yard day against Jacksonville in the final week of the season. Along with Nyheim Hines, the Colts running attack should be considered one of the most dangerous running back duos in the NFL. Plus, factor in that the AFC South has 2 of the worst teams in football, in the Jaguars and the Texans. Based on his stats from last year and what division and situation he's going to be in, Taylor will establish himself as a top 5 running back in 2021. Speaking of that 2020 running back class, I can't help but to mention the now starting running back for the Baltimore Ravens, J.K. Dobbins. Despite playing behind Mark Ingram early in the season in 2020 and sharing playing time later in that year with Gus Edwards, Dobbins still made his presence known with over 800 yards rushing, 9 touchdowns, and 6 yards per rushing attempt. Now with Ingram for some reason wanting to sign with the Texans, JK now takes over the backfield along with Lamar Jackson that will surely be a dominant running attack. And honestly, JK being drafted to Baltimore was the best thing for him. The Ravens have led the league in rushing the past 2 seasons. The focus will be on Lamar Jackson for defenses, and without a game of 20 or more rushing attempts in 2020, Dobbins is still hungry to prove himself as a starting back. Now, if you've been a fan of this channel and the podcast for many years, you'll know that going into that 2020 season, J.K. Dobbins was my favorite back coming out of that class, hailing from the Ohio State University. And in 2021, I guarantee J.K. Dobbins will show out. You're starting to see a little bit of a pattern here with some second-year guys that I think will play way better in their second year. And it's no different with the Dallas Cowboys wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb. Through the first 5 games of the season, we got a taste of how good CeeDee Lamb can be at the pro level. With Dak as his quarterback, Lamb had 29 catches for 433 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged over 86 yards per game in those first 5 weeks. And watching those early Cowboys games, you can sense that Prescott was building a lot of confidence with his young receiver. However, after Dak's season-ending injury, Lamb had 45 receptions, 502 yards, and 3 touchdowns in the next 11 games. Still respectable considering you had the Red Rifle himself, Andy Dalton, but obviously the curiosity of what he could have done with Dak Prescott for a full season was there. In this next season, that curiosity is going to come to life now with Dak returning and CeeDee, who dealt with a lot of critical drops in his games in 2020 and also incredible catches. This next season, though, can be something special. A better offensive line that can protect Dak Prescott, a locked-in Dak Prescott, and Lamb ready to prove himself again. I'll go as far to say that Lamb will be the best Cowboys receiver in 2021. Let's show some more love to the wide receivers, and let's stay in that NFC East division. This is one of my favorite offseason moves, Curtis Samuel. After 4 seasons with the Carolina Panthers, Samuel signs with a scary, on-the-rise Washington football team. Jack Del Rio's defense was the highlight for Washington in 2020, but that offense was lacking. Terry McLaurin is an amazing talent, but you need a supporting cast around him. What did Riverboat Ron do? He went out and got himself a nice quarterback he can trust and a perfect wide receiver to complement Scary Terry in Curtis Samuel. Samuel's coming off his best year so far in the league with 77 receptions and 851 yards. What's even better was his productivity in the running game with 200 yards on 41 rushes. That's what's interesting about this move, is that you can use him as a wide receiver or as a running back, much like Antonio Gibson. Now, when an offense that was lacking depth at skill positions last year solves that issue, I can't wait to see what Rivera brews up with McLaurin, Logan Thomas, Gibson, and Samuel as well. Expect a lot more creativity from this Washington offense thanks to the addition of Samuel. This offense is going to be really fun to watch next year, and I could see Washington going deep into these playoffs thanks to the addition of a great wide receiver in Samuel. Let's finish it off with a rookie out of the 2020 NFL Draft, and that is Alabama running back Najee Harris. We are talking about the greatest Alabama running back of all time.
Whoa, brother, whoa, now. You got too much dip on your chip.
Okay, maybe not the greatest of all time, but the numbers don't lie. He's the all-time leader in rushing touchdowns and total touchdowns at Alabama. 4,624 all-purpose yards, which is second all-time at the program. He is the definition of a dual threat running back with his ability to catch out of the backfield and his skill set as a runner. He is undoubtedly one of the best prospects to come out of this year's draft, and in Pittsburgh, where they desperately need someone like Najee, he will make an immediate impact. The Steelers were the worst team in the NFL last year at running the football. There's still some question marks about their offensive line, but I think that Najee was the perfect pick for them, as it relieves pressure off of Big Ben and gives them a weapon out of the backfield to throw to or just hand the ball off. Harris is one of the most gifted and talented running backs I have ever seen in my lifetime. So if you take me to Vegas and put all my chips in on one guy to win Rookie of the Year, put it on Najee Harris.